Hey guys, Dajay here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get good on the GMK joystick. I'm going to be starting off talking about how to find the best keybinds, then move into what to practice in creative, and then finally, how to take those skills into game. Now, arguably, figuring out the right keybinds is going to be one of the most important ways of improving on this joystick. And that's because of how optimal you can get your keybinds with this keyboard joystick. With this joystick, you're able to have 4 keys, W, A, S, and D, all freed up onto one finger. An example of why this is so important is with the edit key. Typically, players will have E as their edit, and this allows them to quickly take their finger off of D. But that's the problem. You're taking your finger off of your right movement bind, which doesn't allow you to move to the right while you're editing. You have to fumble between the two. But with the joystick, you can move in any direction, simultaneously editing. The same goes with building. If you can move to the right or the left while being able to build a wall, this makes piece control much easier. So I think a good starting point would be to refer to the Gaming Mod Kit's website. Here it is suggested that you put your index on G, middle on F, ring on D and or S, and then your pinky on Z or A. Of course, where you position your fingers on the keyboard will really come down to personal preference and hand size. One tip I do have, if you have smaller hands, you can rest your fingers on the keys below. For example, Z, X, C, V, B. Once you've found a comfortable position to rest your fingers, it's time to start finding the right keybinds. The best way I've found to do this is to match a previous bind you had with the same finger. For example, I press my wall with Q, which is my ring finger. So in this case, my ring finger would be resting on D, so I bound my wall to D. This way, even though my finger is in a different position on the keyboard, I still have the same muscle memory for that finger. Of course, then try to repeat this idea on every single keybind. Now, one problem you may run into is where to put crouch and jump. This is something, again, that you'll really have to play around with and will really just come down to personal preference. I do have a couple of suggestions, though. The Gaming Mod Kit's website says to put crouch on A and jump on Z, which you would both press with your pinky. The two major downsides to this is, one, you can't do crouch spamming that many pro players do, where you see them crouch and then uncrouch using jump repeatedly. And two, it will probably be a little tricky to get your pinky dexterity to be able to do jump and crouch very consistently. Now, I personally press F with my middle finger to jump, and this is just because no other binds were interfering with this and it was open. So I tried it, and it's a little tricky to learn, but that's kind of the point, is that with any of these, they're going to be tricky to learn because your main muscle memory for jumping is going to be on your thumb normally for pressing the space bar, but now your thumb is on the joystick. If you want to talk with anybody else and see what binds they use and discuss what you should use, there is a Gaming Mod Kit's Discord server that I will link in the description, where there is a keybind section. Now that you've hopefully found some good keybinds, I will show you what to practice in creative to get better on the joystick. Now, whether you're an experienced controller player or you've only ever used keyboard and mouse, you're still going to need to learn how to move with the joystick. And to do this, I recommend a parkour map, such as Scissor's Death Run, which I will have the code for in the description. Not only will parkour maps help you get your movement down, but they will also help you get comfortable with your jump bind, as basically a parkour map is all just running, moving, and jumping. Once you're comfortable with moving, the next step is to add in moving and editing. And the best way to do this is, of course, edit courses. Now, really, any edit course will work. Of course, I will have a code to one in the description if you're interested. Now, once you've gotten good at moving, editing, and jumping on the joystick, my best recommendation would be piece control edit courses. Now, these are really important and I think will help you improve more than anything else. The trick to doing piece control edit courses is to always give yourself a right side peek, as I'm hopefully showing in some clip. To do this, do your normal edit course, and then right before you get to the opponent or the target, edit a right side peek and practice swinging to the left. Now this is really easy on the joystick because of how good the movement is. For every single opponent, again, right side peek, swing left to give yourself an even harder right side peek. Now this technique is probably one you're going to want to practice more than anything else. This will prepare you most for game and for real opponents. Of course, another important thing to practice in creative is free building. This will help you get your building down with jumping as well. And of course you can practice retakes, 90s, edits. This will really work on your vertical movement going up. And the last thing I'd recommend to practice in creative, which is also very important for getting good for the real game, is aim duels. Aim duels are really special because they focus on your close range shotgun or SMG aim when you're in the box, basically a 50-50 as you would call it. The reason this is so good for the joystick is because the joystick allows you to really take advantage of that controller movement when you're in somebody's box, and you can really throw an opponent off with that movement. Alright, now that you've hopefully gotten some good keybinds and gotten some good practice in creative, it's time to take those skills into game. Taking these skills into game is really not as hard as you think. It's pretty simple and really just comes down to playing slow. What I mean by that is not trying to play like mongrel, play within your means, know that you're limited mechanically right now because you're learning a joystick, and then really just remember back to your creative practice. Remember the aim duels, the piece control edit courses, and just try to replicate those in game. Of course, slower. You don't have to be fast here. This is all about getting comfortable and building confidence in game. Just like in creative, try to set up that right side peek edit and then swing to the left. Another tip I have is to try to overuse your movement. What I mean by this is to try to swing really hard left or really hard right, way more than you could on keyboard and mouse, because this way you're kind of learning where you can position your thumb on the joystick to give you a certain movement in game. Unless you came from controller, most likely the movements you get from this joystick, the movements will be much more pronounced and exaggerated than on typical WASD. Like I said, these more exaggerated movements will be a little bit challenging to get used to, but that's why I say to constantly try to do them. Alright guys, hopefully my tips on how to find the right keybinds, what to practice in creative, and then how to take those skills into game have helped you today. Have a good day, and good luck getting good on the joystick.